Hi there, it's Ron Gula from Gula Tech Adventures, and today we're going to talk about CISO panels that you would like to see. Now, if you've ever been to Black Hat or RSA or any of the great cybersecurity conferences that are out there, inevitably there'll be a panel where multiple chief information security officers will stand up and get asked a variety of questions. I've asked Starry AI to draw their rendition of it. One thing in common that most of these panels have is softball question after softball question. Now, this is no fault of the CISOs, no fault of the moderator. There's simply a lot of questions that are third rails or just topics that are too sensitive to discuss because of liability. Maybe it's too sensitive to the defense of the organization. However, it would be very useful for an industry to know these answers. So the first question is, what type of budgetary item do you have for cybersecurity that you can't get funding for, and why? I mean, this is a really insightful question. Every CISO always has one or two other things that they want to get done, but they haven't for a variety of reasons, whether it's political, budgetary, just time, limited people. Knowing what they're trying to deploy and what they're being prevented from deploying is certainly useful and be very interesting in the defense of the country. Second is, do you get more advance notice from your vendors, your peers, or the U.S. government? This is also a touchy question because nobody's ever going to want to say that any of these sources typically is not useful or hasn't been useful lately. But the reality is, privately, when I talk to CISOs, they typically have choice words either for their peers, their vendors, or their U.S. government agencies. And the reality is we're all in this together, but it's kind of always curious what's being said privately and what's said publicly. Now, for the most recent incident, another question here. Was this something that was a surprise, or was it something that you were warning your senior management about? And this is a tough one because if you have a CISO who's constantly perceived as crying wolf, crying the sky is falling, that sort of thing, and then something bad happens, well, whose fault is it? Is it the fault of the CISOs for not being persistent enough or persuasive enough? Is it the fault of the board, the executives for not responding to that? And again, this is just one of those behind the scenes things that you're never going to really know about unless you're, friends with the CISO and it gets kind of publicized. It's really hard to make other people who are in that situation think this could happen to them too. And this would be a very useful question to ask for people. Another CISO question I really like to get answers from is, which vendors are really disappointed you? And disappointing can mean maybe the product features that were promised were not delivered. Maybe a certain salesperson at those organizations was difficult to deal with. Maybe contract negotiations was really tough. But usually you're not going to get a CISO to say bad things about cybersecurity companies that are public or large or the kind of the market favorites. Even though individually we're all people, we all can interact at different levels, and it is something worth tracking. Now, another one that's kind of interesting is, do you have a compliance regulation that you're implementing in your company that's causing you to do something that makes you less secure? Now, I've talked to a lot of CISOs and a lot of different organizations who have to do DoD compliance, healthcare compliance, European compliance, and a lot of those things that they're having to do, there comes to a conflict about how they do key management, how they authenticate users, and how they audit systems. Who has access to audit these systems? I've had a CISO lament to me once that some of these compliance things required a little bit more transparency to people that they didn't really trust, which reduced security. Another one that's kind of on the same lines is, how often does perhaps management's desire to have privacy for their employees trump security monitoring? Now, many CISOs out there are becoming their mini intelligence agencies where they have EDR and break and inspect on the wire and DNS logs and all this kind of stuff. Well, that's a lot of private information, especially if you're looking at employees' personal email traffic. Sometimes executives and boards say that's too much of a risk to let the security team look at. Of course, that also hampers their ability to hunt China and Russia on their networks. Now, another one that's kind of sensitive is trying to understand what drives a CISO. Is a CISO purely agnostic and wants the best potential protection for their network at the lowest amount of money? Or are they influenced by Gartner, what their peers are buying, or actual testing in the lab? Of course, all of those things, what peers are buying, testing in the lab, what Gartner says, are all influenced by many, many other reasons. I've been the victim when I was the CEO of Tenable of bad tests in the lab trying to make Tenable not look good, and when in fact, it did great. I have many other vendors out there who say the same thing. I've seen, Gartner looks at the world the way Gartner looks at the world. If you happen to be the light shining on you with Gartner out there, that's great. There's a lot of great products that are not even tracked by Gartner. So it's interesting times, and trying to decide how a CISO is actually deciding what to buy and put out there is something that is interesting to track as an industry. Now, lastly, for all the CISOs that are out there, this would be my favorite question to ask them. How many of you actually want to be CIO, CEO, or a board member? And what this question goes to is, how in tune is the CISO with the business needs of the organization they're trying to defend? A CISO who's so in tune with what they're trying to protect probably should be thinking about the CIO job, or perhaps even the CEO, COO, even a board member job, to really try to align the entire organization that what goes out there. See, a lot of CISOs say, hey, I don't want to get into that management stuff. I don't want to, be part of the executive committee, executive teams. And I think that's the wrong attitude. So I really love hearing about that. I certainly don't see CISOs as the last job that you should have in your cybersecurity career. So thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more videos like this, either on YouTube, on LinkedIn, or on our blog at gula.tech, feel free to subscribe, drop me a note, connect with us. Thanks for watching. I'm Ron Gula from Gula Tech Adventures.